Hi everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Women of Community Banking podcast. I've got a very amazing person, I would say. Objectives would be lesser to quantify how good she is. We've got Katie with us today. Hi, Katie. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here.
Our pleasure. So, Katie is one of the principals at BankTech Ventures, right? We've got a bunch of mutual friends, and then we discovered that friendship can be turned on to a podcast. That's what we are pretty much doing today. Is recording her journey, talking about her journey. So Katie has spent good amount of years in the financial services, started a career back at Amex for some years, then went back to the business school. She's UCLA grad after MBA, joined BankTech as one of the principals and its practice. So Katie, I know I tried to squeeze your more than a decade experience within 30 seconds, and definitely I might have done a horrible job. If you want to add some bells and whistles, the audience won't mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you. I think you really got the highlight. It's that I started my career on the operator side. So, really helping to launch brands, grow audiences, and drive revenue, both at American Express, like you mentioned, but also at some startups and some surprising ones, including helping to launch an ice cream brand at some point. But that's for another podcast. But along the way, I really had this privilege of supporting women who wanted to start their own business. And I saw firsthand how little funding they were getting. And that really lit a fire into me. And I recognized that where capital came into a business, like that's where we have such an opportunity to make a change. And so that's really how I ended up going back to get my MBA from UCLA Anderson. And then broke into venture under the mentorship of a wonderful woman named Petra Griffith, who runs Wedbush Ventures. And she actually introduced me to BankTech Ventures. And when that came along, it just really felt like this perfect convergence of everything of investing, innovation, and real impact on communities.
That's been a quite illustrious career. I mean, you on the first part of your career, being an operator and finally moving on to a fund. That's not a very easy move, right? I mean, it takes a lot of effort and courage. Effort, courage, sweat, blood, and hard work. 5 of them to move into venture. So congratulations on that, and we are really proud about what you're doing out there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been very rewarding. And also, there's been people along the way that have been so instrumental to that. So grateful for that, and along with the hard work.
Makes sense. So for listeners, I think, most of my listeners are familiar with BankTech, but still people who are not familiar with BankTech, right? Do you want to talk about what does one BankTech does and what makes your investment thesis unique?
Yeah. So BankTech Ventures is a strategic fund backed by over 120 community banks. It was launched to support the innovation and growth of community banks. And it was really started as a way to bridge the gap between traditional community bank and modern technology solutions. So we act as the R&D arm of the banks. We provide our LPs with market intelligence and introduce them to the best-in-class technology that will enhance their efficiency, their service offerings, their competitiveness, just how well they can really serve their customer. And so companies we source run the gamut from like a front office revenue generating solution, like maybe a loan origination software, to a back office cost saving solutions like compliance tools. And we typically are looking for companies that have some bank traction, and we can just really add fuel to the fire. And part of what makes us unique, of course, is the community banks that we have as the investors in our fund, but also is that when we get to work with founders, they're not just getting capital, they're getting a warm introduction to a network of banks and ready buyers. Yeah. We really help to bridge the gap and help make those introductions through a variety of ways.
Yeah, so being that connective tissue between community banks and fintechs is where the unique value prop you bring in, because you're not a traditional PE or VC who just puts in money and waits for it to double, triple, and quadruple in 4 years and make an exit. You're more connected to the ecosystem because you actually want banks or community banks to be successful by introducing them or bringing new technology, operations, whatever, to their wheelhouse, right? That's pretty much what BankTech does. So yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting value prop. I mean, and we need more of BankTechs, right? We need more of BankTechs across community banks, credit unions, for the matter of say, for any community-driven business. So always feel proud of what you're doing, Katie. I mean, we are very proud of what you're doing out there.
Yeah, no, I'm so proud. And it truly is such a privilege to do what we do, that we can help the banks think through like what they should be looking at for now and for in the future, and then help our portfolio companies think about how to do that and really be bank ready. And I love that. And even when oftentimes on the venture side, you're having to say no
Mhm.
to companies so often because you can't fundraise. But with ours, I still think that we can add some value even when the answer is we're not ready to fund you quite yet, because we can give some of our insights of like, this is what we're really hearing from banks. And this is what we're hearing from buyers. This is not just my opinion as an investor. This is
Mhm.
also coming from your potential customers. And so being
Customers.
able to do that and add that ground to make it feel more grounded and be helpful is I really love.
That's interesting. And obviously, she won't reject me if I go to her for investment. She'll be writing a check like that for
Yeah.
sure. I know that. Now, we are not talking about adoption. Now, I mean, the reason is because I asked you this question because I've been on the same side as of yours, worked with bigger banks, like the top 10 banks, and now with community FIs, right? So, for the lack of better word, selling to community FIs versus selling to large banks is a completely different ballgame because technology adoption is very different. Maturity, pace, and scale, all three are very different, right? So, how do you think community banks differ from the larger institutions when adopting new technologies? And what does it mean for founders pitching to you?
So I would say that one, obviously, budget, very different, right? Like that right there means that
Yeah,
because you have maybe a more limited bandwidth and budget, that you're going to be a little bit more deliberate about what you can do. You can't just decide, like, oh, this looks like a really cool technology. Like, I'm going to try it. It has to solve a real problem. I mean, and I think at the larger banks, that's also true, but even more so here where each decision is going to be more important. And so for us on the investor side, we're looking for proof of pain. Is this solving a real problem that feels like not just it's a real problem, but is this happening regularly enough that someone feels like it needs to be addressed and it's going to make a real difference in their job? Because you need something like to rise up high enough on their priority list that they're going to invest their team's time and their budget into this. And
yeah,
so I think that is probably some of the difference. And so we're looking for also founders that are coachable, because navigating the bank industry is really requires a willingness to adapt and to meet
sure.
the bank more than halfway.
Yeah,
Because like I said, when they have this limited bandwidth, you have to figure out like, how can I problem solve this? How can I help them, hey, take that, you know what, I really don't think our team would be able to bring this in because we don't have XYZ talent. If you can help them
sure.
answer that and do that and move the needle, that's going to make a big difference. Like they don't have these specialty teams that the larger banks might have. And so you really need to have a founder that understands that. And so the best
Mhm.
pitches I typically see come from founders who spent real time understanding how a community bank actually operates, that they understand what the
Yeah,
limitations are, and also like where there's going to be great upside. I think part of the great thing about selling into community bank is that you don't have the same levels that you have to go through to get yeses. And so if you can find if a sponsor at the community bank, if you can find someone that can push you through, you potentially can get to a yes faster. So figuring out someone who can navigate that is really going to be the differentiator. And I think that's probably true across all banking technology now, or all technology really, because it's going to be easier to create technology than it ever has been before. And so technology is not likely to be the differentiator for many things.
yeah.
It's going to be that person who's selling and their ability to connect and to point the technology in the right direction that changes things.
I think I should literally, get this out as a small clip and share with the world that, see, I mean, 90% of my friends are obviously, I mean, I'm an Asian, I'm an Indian, so 90% of my friends are engineering managers and engineering directors. They do engineering for life. But that's what I try to tell them, right? That technology is becoming a commodity. I mean, earlier were the days it should take like 3 months to build a website and get a product launch. Now it takes 3 weeks. With cloud coming in, with cloud code coming in, I mean, I can build something myself. I know that won't be scalable, but the real value still stays in, can you go and do a product market fit? Can you go and develop an effective GTM? Can you go and actually sell? Because those
Yes.
skills cannot be replaced. I mean, you cannot replace this relationship. You can replace any other things with AI or automation or technology, whatever you say. So what you talked about, I think that's the most important thing. And there are obviously founders who even reach out to me for basic product market fit guidance. I tell them the same thing. Invest the most amount of time in doing a product market fit, defining the ICP, and going after the pipeline. That is the most important thing. Technology can change, product can change, it can improve. So what you talked about, you sitting on the side of a PE/VC. that really is very, I would say, satisfying for me that yes, I think I'm on the right track.
Yeah, I mean, and that being said, of course, like building for banking, like it is a very regulated space, so you also have
Yeah,
to know those things. It's not like you can just build an app in, one day and it will be fine. Like you can't have the same bugs that other industries were allowed. Of course, like
yeah,
security and other things have to come first. So I don't want to discount that, but I do just think like that again will become a little bit easier than it has before to think about those things. And even like that goes back again to the person who is building this company, right? Is that they understand the community banking space and the regulated environment. And so they're building those safety mechanisms in from the very
yeah,
beginning. And that
yeah.
requires you being aware and having a deep understanding.
This was really well covered. Now bringing on a different lens of women leadership. Now, obviously, PE slash VCs, and as well as Wall Street has notorious reputation of not having women in leadership. So, as a woman, both sitting on both the sides in FinServe as well as venture tech, right? What has been your experiences in both the worlds?
So, I mean, both states are still fairly male dominated. So I think you learn early to be intentional about how you show up. So obviously, like I mentioned before, part of what drove me into venture in the first place was seeing women founders getting underfunded and wanting to be on the other side of the table to help make different decisions. And so I think that gives a lot of purpose to what I've done. And so it hasn't always been easy, but I think finding the right people, like I was incredibly lucky to meet Petra Griffith at Wedbush Ventures, who gave me my first chance, and other wonderful colleagues at BankTech and along the way who showed me what's possible. And I think really surrounding myself with other great women and also great men who become your sponsor and want to talk kindly about you in the room that you're not in has been a big part of helping to do that. I also started I would say, initiative called Texas with really with Pam Core, who is now at Alloy Labs and used to be my colleague at BankTech Ventures. And we started because we wanted to be intentional about the people that we were meeting. And we were going to conferences and other events where we felt like it felt really transactional. And we wanted to create a community of women who were going to come together and be at the intersection of banking and financial services and investing, who could come and support each other and do things. And so we'll host lunch or we'll do small walks at some of these events. And it's just really energizing to be in a space where you're with others who are excited about what they're doing and can be supportive of each other.
I think that's a fantastic, I would say, show that you guys have created. We should talk more about Texas sometime. Maybe you and Pam coming in just for an episode of what you guys are doing in Texas and how can we help you guys expand, because that's one of the very good ventures that you're doing, and I'm really proud of what you've achieved through Texas. Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, we would love to.
Absolutely. Let's go into a couple of I'll go into a series of rapid fire questions, and then we'll
Okay.
end the podcast with a couple of more questions.
Perfect.
So, 5 rapid fire questions. Now, obviously, the first one is cliche, but still, coffee or tea?
Oh, tea all the way.
I didn't know that you're a tea person.
I'm a tea person, and I also feel like, especially at conferences, like you need that hot, soothing, like you need the hot water and other things. So yes, big tea proponent.
Now we are best friends. I don't
I
like
love
coffee.
it.
I'm a tea person too. Amazing. Good. Very rare to find tea lovers. Book or podcast that you would recommend to every banker?
Yes. The book that I would recommend is by Theo Lau, who is, I actually have it here. I don't know if it'll show up, but Banking on Artificial Intelligence. Just to give her a little plug, she wrote this book, and I think particularly for community banks who are navigating AI, and particularly maybe not the senior leaders, but staff underneath who you're trying to upskill, and just really give them an easy primer on where to begin and what to think about. She does a great job of just giving some of leveling things, making it easier to understand, and particularly from the financial institution lens.
And the world is so small. Theo Lau is a very good friend, and she was a guest in the podcast, and you're back.
Love it.
Interesting. One big myth about community banking.
Oh, that they cannot invest into technology. I would say that one of our most forward-thinking banks in our fund, who raises their hand the most often to work with startups, is under 50 or 500 million in assets.
Interesting. That's quite interesting. I know a couple of banks who are couple of hundred millions, but hearing about this is interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Talking about one woman you actually admire the most in whatever you do?
Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm going to cheat on this one. I think that I've just been so lucky to grow this community. So I'm going to call out a few of them, and they're just a small sample. But Petra, who I had mentioned, who really gave me a chance early on in my career. Pam Core, who helped start Texas with me, who continues to champion absolutely everyone she meets. She's just one of those rare people who lifts everyone up in the room. Jennifer Morantz is at the Bank of Springfield. She puts the hard work in every single day to help her family run bank continue to serve their customers better and continue to do a great job and create the experience that the next generation of customers deserve. And one of our founders, Nikki Senyard at Fintel Connect, who's doing the essential work helping banks find new customers in this digital world.
Interesting. I would appreciate all the names, but I'm just thinking, what has Pamcor done to you? I mean, for every question you have an answer that's linked to this lady. I'm like, okay, I have to call up Pam and check up on her. What's wrong with it? Okay, good. Now, obviously, I think all of us are biased, and I mean, I can assume what would be the next answer. What is the best city for fintech right now?
Well, I mean, latest data, I think, still points to San Francisco in terms of getting the funding. That said, for us at BankTech, we meet from founders from all over the country. And geography really doesn't factor into our thesis, and our portfolio really reflects this. And for us, it's more about problem you're solving, not about the zip code you're in. And I think just anywhere you are, if you understand a banking problem, like start something up, try to solve that problem. The community banks need you.
That makes sense. And can I be biased a bit?
Please.
New York.
Yeah. New York is a great place. We do love it there.
Perfect. So that was the best thing I heard, that it doesn't matter which zip code you're in, but unless, I mean, again, there's a quote what I heard long time back, that Silicon Valley is a mindset. It doesn't matter if you're in the Valley or not. You can be back in Bangalore, you can be back in Tel Aviv, anywhere. But if you have that mindset, you'll get it. That's the most important thing. Yeah. So
yep.
That's amazing. Katie, a couple of last questions. One is advice, right? So if you were to provide an advice or share advice for women who are early in their career, right? In the early 20s, late 20s, right? What would that be?
Be intentional about the community that you build. Find people that you believe in and be a champion of others too. I feel like by helping them move forward, you never know where you're going to meet along the line. And if you can help them, they also might be able to help you in the future. And I think that's one of the biggest things, and that there's no perfect career path. So continue to build and find what's next and do that. And I think also finding some kind of purpose, like with ours, we know that community banks are responsible for, I think, around 60% of small business loans and 80% of agricultural loans. So like do something with purpose. I think that also can create a lot of value in your job.
Yeah. So, I myself am like very proud about the 62% number that you talked about. Yeah, this is the backbone of the society, guys. I mean,
yes,
you need to roll your sleeves up and look at community banking more seriously. Not that we don't do that, but more seriously. One last question, Katie, in the interest of time, since you got a hard stop, where do you see community banking headed in the next few years?
I think there'll still continue to be some consolidation, and that the banks that continue to survive are the ones that are going to adopt technology, that they're going to be doing this better, and that they're going to be very focused on serving their customers, not just for what they want now, but for what they want in the future, and are really intentional about those pieces of what they're doing, and that they're going to be able to use some of this automation to spend more time with the customer and not spend time on back office things, and delight them in ways that they didn't even see possible.
So Katie, this was great. Amazing 20 minutes, 41 seconds of wisdom coming from you. So we really appreciate this time you've spent with us. I look forward to hosting you in future, talking more about community banking. But for now, thank you for doing this for us. This was an overdose of community banking that we loved.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and maybe see you in Vegas.
In a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.